Welcome back to our author interviews for Queens in Wonderland. And this is the Semi-Sages of the Pages. My name is Teresa, and I'm sitting down with C.N. Wheaton to talk about her story, One Day at Carrol Tech. And I love this story so much. It is Alice's first day, and she's entering a very corporate world. And one of the things that I feel like Christine did such a fantastic job at is introducing a lot of the characters from Wonderland in a very unique way, but also with those echoes of corporate America too. So those of you that has corporate jobs, you really are going to kind of be like, oh yeah, that's what my job's like. So Christine, do you want to tell us a little bit more about this story?
Sure. So I had so much fun when I heard that you guys were interested in any sort of like punk retelling. And when I found out that biopunk was actually a genre, I hadn't heard of it before. I was having so much fun just trying to like map all of these characters into this sort of context where, it feels very corporate, has like weird biology stuff going on. And those characters are just so iconic and fun that it was, of course, the caterpillar would have a vaping issue, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And your white rabbit is studying being late to everything. So it was so much fun and so iconic. What drew you to the Wonderland universe?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen so many different adaptations of it, and they're all so unique and fun. Where it's like, there's this moment of getting to go, oh, hey, now I know who that one is, or trying to figure out the different characters. And I've just always kind of loved that. And I mean, even that the cartoon and all of those images just show up so much and have for, decades and decades, that it's just such a fun context to get to kind of play in for a while.
And I have to say, I was so amazed by all the different versions of Wonderland or Wonderland characters that we got from this anthology. We had so many submissions, and they were all so different. And yes, we had some whimsical ones, and those did make it into the story, but we also had a lot that were very rooted in reality, including yours, I would say, in many ways. So that was really fun. What drew you to being a part of this anthology?
Well, I mean, once I got started, and I loved that it's also, getting to also shine a light with like LGBTQ issues and getting to, make like have that connection as well, and thinking about like which characters kind of come in with like which aspects of identity was really interesting. So I liked that take on it. But when I just saw it was really the prompt that I got to see that I was going, oh, I have an idea for that. And I had such a fun time writing that story, that I really enjoyed it. And I'm so glad that you liked it too.
Oh, I did. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this one scored really high with our readers, and it's so much fun. And it added just a wonderful mood and tone to it. And for those of you who know, I've really struggled a lot trying to figure out the order for this anthology. Orders and anthologies are about mood and tone rather than like, oh, you put the quote unquote good ones, which every story in an anthology should be good. But you put the quote unquote good ones at the beginning and the weaker ones at the end. That's not how to do an order. And so I really struggled with this one because the moods are so different, but then the genres are so different. And I didn't want to end up front loading all the romances, and I didn't want to end up back loading all the whimsical ones. And there are some sci-fi ones too. And I, wanted to separate those. And there's several ones that tackle very intense topics. We've got some trigger warnings on some of these stories. So I wanted to make sure those got separated as well. So it was really challenging, but I loved your story so much because it had such a positive mood to it. So it was nice.
Well, happy to hear that. I'm glad it made it a little bit easier to figure out maybe where to stick it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So before we get to the reading, where can our viewers find out more information about you?
Well, have finally made myself an author website.
Good.
That's at CN Wheaton at WordPress. So it's a WordPress one, I have it linked. And I do also have, kind of sporadically blog at Beyond the Bookshelves with CN as well. That's also on WordPress. So just having some places where you could actually find a couple more of my stories, because I've been so fortunate to be featured in a couple of anthologies in the last year, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I love anthologies. They're a blast to do. All right, you ready to move to the reading?
Absolutely. All right, this is One Day at Carrol Tech. Working for Carrol Tech had always been Alice's dream. Now the day was finally here. I've got this, Alice whispered, trying to psych herself up as she stared at the dauntingly large complex. She'd worked so hard for this opportunity to intern at Carrol Tech and be part of the cutting edge of biomedical research. If she could impress them, this internship could be the start of her career. Alice took a deep breath and walked through the mirrored doors. Once inside, her mouth dropped open. She was standing in a giant atrium with a living wall of flowers. A huge DNA helix art piece made entirely from pocket watches hung from the ceiling. Despite the hour, it was silent. Even the traffic noise from the street outside was absent, as if she'd walked into another world entirely. She realized she didn't know where to go and waited awkwardly near the empty front desk, frantically checking her phone for any directions she'd somehow missed. First day? A cheerful voice asked from somewhere near her ear, and Alice jumped, guiltily tearing her eyes away from her phone. The person in front of her was dressed in striped pink and purple leggings, pink heels, a purple dress shirt, and a yellow tie with pink cats on it. Completing the look was some of the most fabulous eye makeup she'd ever seen in real life, a perfect cat eye and black eyeliner complemented with shimmering purple and pink eyeshadow. They also sported a bright yellow button with they, them written on it. Yes? She blushed with embarrassment as she realized they were still waiting for her reply. All she'd wanted to do was make a good first impression, but she felt sweaty and flustered. I mean, yes, it is my first day. I'm worried I'm in the wrong place. I suppose that entirely depends on where you're meant to be, they laughed. Then they noticed her anxiety. You're Alice Charles, aren't you? Call me Ches. I'll be your guide today, Ches grinned. Come on, no need to be shy. I'm sure you didn't come all this way just to stop before you started. They led her through one of the far doors. Most of us come through the back, although it's less impressive than the main entrance, Ches shared over their shoulder. I'm not sure where the guard is right now. We can get your credentials sorted out later. What do you do here? She asked as they waited in front of an elevator. A little of this, a little of that, Ches answered cryptically. They waved her inside the elevator and pulled out their phone. Let's see. You're working with... Oh. Oh? She echoed. She didn't like the sound of that. What's wrong with her I've been assigned? She'd been told she'd find out which lab she'd be working with once she arrived. Thing, Ches answered unconvincingly. You're with Dr. White. He's in Building G. He's been trying to isolate genetic markers that have to do with chronic tardiness. It's been causing a backlog in the sequencing lab. All of his subjects show up late. Alice laughed, then realized Ches wasn't joking. They exited the elevator on the 5th floor. This hallway had its walls painted dark green with branching sculptures that met overhead. It felt like walking through a forest. Alice hurried to catch up with Ches's long strides. Do you have lunch with you today? They asked. Satisfied to see her nod, Ches swept through a set of doors and into a large open patio situated between buildings in the complex. This is the very best break area, Ches confided. The only occupant on the patio was wreathed in a cloud of smoke from the vape pen he used in between sips of his coffee. He waved a hand at Ches, who continued past him. That's Dr. Aruga. His lab works on psychedelic drug treatments, including using LSD for PTSD and chronic depression. If he offers you food, I'd suggest you say no, Ches whispered, then grinned. She smiled back hesitantly. Ches was kidding, right? Actually, I should go talk to him for a second. If you go through those doors, you can put your lunch in one of the fridges. I'll be along in a minute. Okay, Alice said, although she wasn't sure it was okay at all. Every minute that passed, she was more conscious than ever she was going to be late on her very first day. But there didn't seem to be any alternative. She went through another set of doors on the other end of the patio and into a brightly lit kitchen area. 2 men were sitting at one of the tables. Who do we have here? The taller of the two asked. My name is Alice. I'm a new intern. Does it matter where I put my lunch? That depends. Do you want it to be there when you come back for it? One of them asked with a leering smile. Yes, she said firmly, wishing Ches was there. Then you should probably use the far fridge. Thank you, Alice said, making the effort to sound polite instead of stressed and frustrated. She pulled her lunchbox out of her bag and put it into the fridge he'd indicated. The other man leaned back in his chair. I'm Dr. Hatta, and this is Dr. Hyga, by the way. Not that you asked. Now tell me, Alice, the new intern, what is a possible drug combination that could help cure bigotry? She straightened up out of the fridge and looked back at him. I'm sorry, I don't know. What's the answer? He sighed. I have no idea. Dr. Hyga, Dr. Hatta, are you bothering the new intern? Ches asked from behind her. Alice breathed a sigh of relief she wouldn't have to keep talking to the teasing duo. No, of course not, Dr. Hyga said insincerely. Here, have a maple twist, he said, waving to a tray of assorted donuts at the table next to them that sported a little sign saying, Eat me. No thank you, Alice demurred, not sure she trusted any food they'd offer. A loud snore interrupted whatever Dr. Hyga had been going to say. Alice whirled around in surprise, spotting a nap pod in the corner with a small man curled up inside. He snored again and rolled over, muttering about a tea party. That's Dr. Giles. He researches insomnia. We think he's found the cure, Ches offered. Now come along, Alice. They led the way out the door, leaving the odd trio behind. Ches led Alice down another forest-like hallway, stopping in front of an elevator with flowers etched in the metal. She got in as the doors opened, then realized Ches had stopped short. I have to go, but the lab is the second door to the right when you get off the elevator. Good luck. Also, if you run into Dr. Hart, actually, scratch that. Try not to run into Dr. Hart. Isn't she the CEO? Alice asked, resisting the urge to beg Ches to come with her. They were the only friendly face she'd seen so far, and she was hoping they'd smooth the way with Dr. White. Ches leaned in and pressed the button for the 7th floor. Yes, career management in charge of a bunch of scientists. Terrifying prospect. Dr. Hart is between marriages at the moment, so she's in an extra foul mood. Seems she can't pretend to be a good person for longer than 6 months, since that's when the beautiful women she marries always seem to file for divorce. Anyway, catch you later, Alice, Ches said with a grin. They spun around and walked off as the doors closed with a ding, leaving Alice with more questions than ever.
All right, that was so good. Thank you so very much for that. Uh, so this story, One Day at Carroll Tech, is part of Queens in Wonderland, and super, super excited for that. If you're watching this, the book is either up for pre-order or it's available in all of the places. If you're interested in signed copies, you can get them at www.nobadbookspress.com. Anything else to add, Christine?
Oh, but thanks so much for having me, and I hope everybody enjoys the story and the collection.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. So take care, everyone. Happy unbirthday.
Happy unbirthday. All right, bye-bye.